So for today's training session, we're going to cover my purchase items. My purchase items is the form that you use to adjust which items you use, how they are read, and which unit-specific defaults are to be used. In order to locate the purchase items, you'll navigate to the menu and then into the Setup folder and select Purchase Items. As the Start tab generates for purchase items, you will notice that there are filter options. There are filter options for item type, which allows you to pick between either a standard or a recipe. Now, we offer just these two. We do not do generic, we do not do prepared, and we do not do internal. Again, you can pick all items if you'd like to bring up all items. Majority of the work that you will do inside of your purchase items will be in the standard form. The second filter is the description contains. This gives you the ability to pull up a specific item that you want to look at. So if you only want to look at those descriptions that contain chili, or those descriptions that contain cheese, or those descriptions that contain a certain cleaning or paper product, it allows you to filter down to a specific item. Additionally, you have the purchase account, and the purchase account allows you to go into a specific account or accounts to be able to filter even deeper, meaning that you could look for only standard items inside that start with chili that are in the core category only. Finally, you also have the Smart Filter, and the Smart Filter allows you to see either all items or only those items that are out of sync with the master, or only items where local description differs from the master. I'm going to go ahead and leave all filters checked and show you what it looks like, and then I'm going to go back and check specific filters so you can see how the filters work. So by leaving all filters checked and selecting Next, it will show you that all items that are available. Now, all items are the list of master items at the top of the screen that shows you that there are a record of 1 of 805 total items available for you to review. Down at the bottom, you have a section called My Items, which will show you a record of 1 of 831 items that are available for you to review. Some restaurants have specific items for their restaurant, which is why you may have additional items other than those items that are available in the master items. The reason for this is some of those items may be hidden in the master and still exist in your items at this point. I will go back and show you what it would look like if you were to filter to a specific item. So if I were to filter into just standard items, and then I want to find only those items that contain the description of chili, and then only those items that are standard have the description of chili in the core account, and then select Next, you'll notice that it will just bring up the chili cube at the top and just bring up the chili cube at the bottom. This is an easy way if you know that you want to go in and adjust a specific item for you to be able to make those changes to that specific item. Do keep in mind that if you do set filters, you're going to want to make sure that you clear out those filters prior to completely exiting out of the purchase items section. The reason for this is the filter options will be remembered, and the next time you go to look for something, if you forget to set the filter options back to the defaults, it will only pull up those items, and there may be items that you're searching for that may be missing. And that is just because of the filters. Once you have selected your items, you can then select the Next and go in to review the detail. I'm going to navigate to the View tab and deselect the Menu and To Do button so we can have a full screen view. First, I'm going to start and explain the top section of the master items. By navigating to the Task tab, I can navigate to Display Options and look at only those master items, which will allow my screen to show only those items. For each item, there is ability to expand the details. Additionally, there is a local button that shows you that this item is one of your local items in your item master. There is a description of that particular item as it is described in the master item list that's controlled by the administrator. There is a check mark if the local description differs from the restaurant description, and I will explain this as I get into your items. Additionally, there is a check mark if this particular item is recommended to be in your local items. It will tell you what account this particular item exists in. It will also show you what type, if it's standard or recipe, the costing unit of measure, the reporting unit of measure as it is set up in the master item list, and then a check mark to show if the local unit of measure matches the master unit, and that this particular item is additionally linked to a business-to-business vendor, meaning that the only one we work with now is Reinhart from a business-to-business, meaning that these items that have check marks are those items that are linked to Reinhart. These particular items that do not have check marks are not linked to Reinhart. And then finally, it will let you know that when you use the PAR values to set PARs for a particular item that is set at the administrator level. So for example, ensuring that when you receive your truck, when using the suggested order feature, that you always have at least 2 cubes of chili on hand the day of truck deliveries. It will show you that that particular shelf life and thawing is done in days. When you expand the details, down below, it will show you for that unit of measure, the different units of measure that exist for that particular item. So for example, there is a full cube, which is 512 ounces, a fresh cube, which is 512 ounces, and a frozen cube, which is 512 ounces. All 3 of these cubes are the exact same item, and that's represented by the costing unit. The difference is how Reinhart sends these items to you. And then this can be broke down into additional units of measure, meaning that there is 1 ounce, which times 512 equals a full cube, or when it's tied to the recipe chili, meaning that chili that has been cooked, it equals 1.37 ounces after we have performed the cooking process on chili. You have the ability to hide any of these items at the administrator level, but also at the unit level, which we'll discuss here shortly. Additionally, you'll notice that there's a costing unit, a yield unit, meaning that the chili, when it comes to a raw cube, yields 100%. The yielding cost, so if this were to be changed to say 98, it would make a change to the total amount that could be yielded off of a full cube. And I will show this to you with some recipe items. Additionally, it will show you the number of days that this particular item, if it's frozen, should be thawed, or the shelf life for this item. For example, for a fresh cube, it shows that the shelf life is 10 days, or for a frozen cube that the shelf life is 15 days. Currently, we are not using the tear feature. Additionally, there is the business-to-business link that shows which items are linked to Reinhart. It shows which items are available to be inventoried or counted, as well as which items are available to be purchased, which of this item is tied into an actual recipe to create the items that we may make from here. So for example, the ounce is what's actually tied into the recipe for a 3-way or for a chilito. It will also show if this item is available to be sold as a standalone. So as you can see, cubes of chili are not able to be sold as a standalone. However, when I expand the burrito detail, it shows me that this item is able to be sold as a standalone. You also have the ability to trade this item either on any of these cubes or by the ounce, waste this item by any of these cubes or by the ounce, and then these items can also be used in special events such as your food and mouth events. In the future, we will tie these items to prep sheets, and our nutritional values will be tied to these items as well. Now we will review your items. So we'll navigate to the display option, and we'll go to the only my items. Under your items, you have the same level of detail. It's just in a different order. You have the ability to expand the detail on any item. Each item has an account that it's tied to. Each item has a master item description that item is named. And then each item has a local description. You have the ability to rename any item in the system to a name that is more familiar to your restaurant and your team. So for example, if you were to want to just change this to a cube of chili, you have the ability to change that. And then on all of your reports moving forward, and additionally on all of your forms where you review this chili cube, this is what you would see as the local description. You also have the ability to hide items or unhide them. To find the hide feature and to look for hidden rows, you would simply select the hidden rows to make sure that you can review any items that have been hidden. The reason you would use hidden rows is there are items that we don't necessarily sell all year around, but you do at some point in times throughout the year. For example, Christmas ornaments or black olives. So in order for you to be able to inventory those items, you're going to want to add them to your count sheet. When you don't have those items in the restaurant, you're not going to want to spend the time inventorying them. So you would just simply come into your purchase items and hide that particular item. This would make it disappear from your count sheets and all of your reports until it is unhidden. Come back to the time that you need to start to inventory and account for that item again. Additionally, you have the last cost of each item. And the last cost is generated from the most recent invoice that you've received from that particular vendor. It will then show the unit of measure that is tied to that last cost, as well as the date that that particular cost changed for that unit of measure. It will show the vendors that are tied to that particular item. It will also show the items that are set up for inventory. So if an item is added to your count template, you will see a check mark in the in template checkbox that allows you to know that that's an item that you should inventory regularly on a weekly basis. In order to add items to daily inventory counts, you would come into the purchase items, navigate to the count daily, and change the never, which represents it's only done once a week, to every day, or the specific days of week that you choose to inventory that item. So for example, you may choose to inventory chili on a everyday basis, and that way that item can be accounted for to help control one of the core items in your food cost. However, you may find that from a business standpoint that you only want to review an item such as maybe ice cream on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. By checking just those days, then what will happen is on your inventory template on your mobile device, it will show up. These items will be the only items that show up on all of those additional days. Additionally, you have the ability to set the parameters for the purchase measure outside of what I demonstrated in the master purchase measure. So if the primarily way you want on your purchase measures to show up is by the cube, you can set this and that will be the primary way that that shows up as a purchase measure in the suggested order feature. When you set up your count template, you set up a whole column, a partial column, and an each column. The system automatically defaults to the first item you see to count as the whole column. However, if you want it to default to a different count measure, you would simply navigate to these default settings and you would select that particular count measure that you want it to default to first. And finally, on your reports that you review, the reports will show the sum of all of your, say, inventory counts or purchase measures, and it will show them based off of the way that you've set up your reporting measure. By setting the reporting measure, you can then either review how much chili, say, you have on hand, either by the cube or by the ounce, depending on how you would prefer to review that report. When reviewing the details, you'll notice the details look very similar to the details in the master item. However, you'll notice that some lines have a darker gray than others. If it has a darker gray, you do not have access to make changes to those lines. However, the lighter shaded areas, you have access to change. So for example, even though you have it open to you to inventory and count chili by either frozen, fresh, 32-pound, or ounce, if you choose to, you can come in here and you can restrict that further by unchecking and say the only way that I want my team to be able to count our chili is by unchecking these boxes. However, you'll notice that when I tried to uncheck one of these boxes, I receive an error message letting me know that this count combination is currently assigned to a count template. So if you wanted to restrict this and it's already assigned in your count template, you would need to first adjust your count template, save your changes, and then navigate back to the purchase items to make your restrictions. Additionally, you can do the same with the purchase unit of measure and the waste unit of measure. In the future, you'll have the ability to add items to your prep sheets when we roll that next year, as well as be able to adjust the thaw, shelf life, and tear, and be able to adjust the par values for your particular restaurant. So if you want to ensure that on the day you receive your deliveries that you have 1 or 3, you would simply change the par quantity to 1 or 3 from 2. When you initially begin to do your inventory, it is highly encouraged that you do daily inventories along with your weekly inventories. The best way to set up your dailies is to navigate to My Items and then sort those items which you choose to inventory daily. So for example, you can sort by navigating to the account and picking the filter in the upper right-hand corner and then selecting the account that you'd like to review. You can then navigate to the inventory column, navigate to the count daily, and then change those core items from never to every day to ensure that those items are available for you to inventory on a daily basis. You will want to select all items that you choose to inventory daily, but keep in mind that as you move forward, you will have key inventory items for you to focus on from the reports that are generated. You will be able to then come into this purchase items activity, add an item such as chicken or bean mix to your daily counts. And once you have corrected the food cost issue with that particular item, you can then navigate back into purchase items and remove it from your everyday counts. So that way you can continue to focus on just those items that are most important for you to inventory. Once you've made your changes to those items that should be inventoried daily, you'll simply navigate and save your changes. I also encourage everybody to set up their reporting measures so as they're reviewing their reports, it will make sense to them as they read the information. For example, as you want to know what the variance is on your buns, most likely you will want to know, you have the option of rack, bag, or each, but you will most likely want to know how many individual buns you've lost for a particular day. On cheese, you will most likely want to know how many pounds you've lost for the day. And that would be for all cheese. So you would just simply change those to pound. For chili, you would probably want to know how many pounds of cooked chili that you lost. For raw chili, you would want to show that on the reports in cubes. And then for additional cheeses, you would want to show those in pounds. Hot dogs, you have the option for bag or case, but most likely on the reports, you would want to review that as an each. Once you have selected your reporting measures, again, navigate up to the top and save your changes. You have the ability on a regular basis, if you want to look at the reports in different ways to try to understand different things, to come in here, change these, run a report, and then change them back to whatever that default reporting measure is that makes most sense to you. Finally, from time to time, you're going to request that an item be added so you can add it to your count template, which would be a new item to the system. When a new item to the system is added, in order for you to have access to it, you will need to navigate into your purchase items, navigate to task, actions, and then sync all recommended items. By selecting sync all recommended items, it will pull in any new items that have been added to the item master for your restaurant. This will then give you access to those new items, so then you can turn around and add them to your count template and make the necessary adjustments to your plan. Once you've added those items to your count template, then that item will forever exist inside of your purchase items and your items. No items can be deleted from Data Central once they have been inventoried and once you have accounted for those items. So if that item is something that you no longer want to see on your count template, you would then move forward and navigate to purchase items to hide that item. Most likely, you will not need access to a few of these columns. So feel free to navigate into your purchase items and remove some of these columns for optimized view. The way you would do that is left click, hold that column header, and drag it away until you see a black X and then drop. You can do that with your cost and your preferred vendors. You can also typically do that with the purchase measure, something that's not typically changed. And this will give you an optimized view to be able to see just those items that you need to do. Once you have set your local description for items, you can then navigate and remove the actual name as well to give yourself a little more room to be able to view and only look at the necessary information. If you ever need to bring columns back in, you would then navigate to either the band header or the column header, right click, select column/band chooser, and then you can navigate down and bring either back in the columns that you removed or the bands that you removed. Once you have made your adjustments, close out, and you can go ahead and exit out of your purchase items. This concludes the purchase items training session.